Morning.
It's all correct.
Morning, Casey.
Morning.
Okay, that was a little late. Good morning. I think Chip Person has our invitation this morning.
My hair, I definitely did. Let us bow our heads. Lord, dear Lord, you've given most of mankind a strong desire to be good, to be honest, and to serve others, and to faithfully fulfill their obligations to their neighbors. Let us help us as Rotarians to do good. Help us as Rotarians be honest and ethical in all our dealings. Help us as Rotarians to serve others. And help us as Rotarians to faithfully fulfill our obligations as neighbors to our community, our nation, and the world. Amen. Please stand. Remember, there's no comma. As long as I'm running, I get to say that.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And of all the things we think, say, and do.
Is the truth, is fair to all concerned, will it build goodwill and better friendships, will it be beneficial to all concerned.
Thank you.
They're all over the buffet table. Our new person, Molly Joe, John. Are you quick?
It was an honor to be Sergeant Arms Day for a wonderful, there are 30 members today and one wonderful guest speaker.
Thank you, John.
Thank you, that was exciting.
Thank you.
I am more than prepared to be Walmart greeter in my
Well, we already know you, you probably know all of us too, because it came 6 months before we talked to you this morning. Is Rick Martin here? No? Did anybody have any birthdays? Any birthdays this week, today?
I turned 36 on Sunday.
Happy birthday. Any, wedding anniversaries? Any new grandbabies? Okay, no big celebrations then. How about happy dollars? Is it too early? Are we still eating back there?
Is it too early for happy dollars?
No.
Yeah, happy dollars all day. Okay.
I'll kick it off.
Yeah, we'll work on that.
On the way over here, I got to speak to Rosa. She was in Madrid, sharing her troubles of the creamy food over there that is not so well for her stomach. And taking the food in the 10 other places she tasted it in the last 3 months. Next week, she goes off to Morocco. So continued prayers for her safe travels. I did the hottest FaceTiming. I love this WhatsApp thing. We talk, we video, we get great. She's alone a lot, but she's so courageous. And I'm so in awe over her. She is studying with us. I promise you that. She says education is very strong, much better. She'll go to class 2 days a week. We are counting down to 29. We will go see her in 14 days. So we are very excited about that. Of course, I'll share some of that with you. Victoria is going to be in the big hair ball this weekend. So I would just ask her simple prayer if she doesn't trip going down the runway. She's going to be a food chart. And a lot of the theme is food. So they advertise her thing first. So the bottom of her dress, beautiful dress design, big princess looking thing, and applique fruits, gemstones, or whatever. A lot of the dress is probably flying for the table. So I don't know how she's gonna like walk down with her thing, but she's very excited about that. Of course, she's a senior, so there's lots of fun stuff. That's my stance. Yes.
Yeah, bring back there. So a couple happy dollars. Number one, my son is in aviation and just landed a full-time job in Charlotte Douglas in city of Charlotte. So I'm pretty excited about that. Secondly, our storm season ends red season tonight. Fifth season, it's been a long season, as some of you know, with the pandemic. We've seen some really great crowds the last month of the season, lifting all the restrictions. And finally, the Hornets made the play-in game at this point, so we're trying to better our position into the playoffs here in April. So hope next year we can get this group together to come out and perform. Yeah, great.
I did want to give a shout out. Yesterday, I had the honor of visiting the downtown Liberty Club. It was nice to see some familiar faces and one of those gentlemen with my husband. So I feel like to them individually. What moved me the most was to see the good that Rotary does and how good things spread. I know there's been some stuff going on, and it's always funny to see people go, but we just remember and hold on to the four-way test and contact goals of Rotary, which is, when I'm get ready and I think about my husband now stands so, even though it was good and right, and then I think about what it is donated him, it was Rotary, and if we think about that, really good is how it's spreading. And even though there were some familiar faces, there were a lot of new faces there. If you just think about all the good that's going to do in our community and everywhere else, It's a video of these folks. Anyway, just wanted to share that. But I'm also very.
Did she give you 100?
I'm glad to be here.
Sorry, my wife took all my money. Which is true, and so I've got two things to say for my $50 that I will bend that. First, many of you know, my wife's really involved with Greensboro Symphony Guild. These ladies work really hard to raise money for music in schools. They put instruments in elementary schools. They run the elementary school concerts. I think someone mentioned their kids going last week. Anyway, they have their one annual fundraiser this Saturday, 8/12 at 301 Swing Road. They call it their super sale. It's basically a big yard sale. It's indoors, so you know, weather either way. There's a lot of furniture and stuff, but at the very least, if you're around 8/12, just go by and thank them for what they did. We appreciate it. That's one. The other is, I want to thank Tom and Lisa and the leadership for all the great speakers, no pressure Dabney, that we've had lately. You know, I think it takes a lot of courage to step out there and listen to what other people have to say. And I applaud both of the speakers and all of our leadership for doing that for our club. Thanks.
Oh, I have one. I just have to say, I love peacock tears. We had that, did we get that reference? Heels, peacock. I love peacock tears. Not as much as Duke tears or many other ACC and SEC tears. This one, go Heels. Can I get a go Heels? Grandpappy said he woke up in the middle of the night, and somebody had broken in and was going through the house looking for money. He said, so I got up and decided to help him look.
Go Heels. So we've already had this discussion last night at 5:05. Because several of us are supposed to attend the hair ball Saturday night, and it runs late. And there's a big basketball game on Saturday night. So are they gonna have big TVs? They're gonna have the basketball game up on the big Teletron thing? Okay. Do you have anything to say about the district?
Thank you, Lisa. Just a reminder that district conference is coming up. It will be April 29, that weekend, April 29 to May 4th. All of you should have gotten an email, because I got one as well, that the Hilton, I think they've extended the group rate. So if you have not made your reservation yet, please do so. It's going to be a great event. I think 7 or 8 of us already signed up to go. So consider going. I've been to many of them, and it's a lot of fun. It's a great way to meet other Ontarians. And as Gail mentioned, hear about the good work that Rotary does. So consider going. And of course, Derby party coming up May 7th. We'll see after the district conference. So again, it's going to be a fun party. It would be a great way, by the way, to recruit new members by inviting them to come to the party. That's what I've been doing. And people hear about Grandover and they're so excited about going. So I encourage you to invite folks to go to the party. And what do we after that? And then finally, there is the Rotary International coming up. That will be in Houston this year. Steve definitely is going. I have been to 2 other Rotary International, one in Atlanta, one in Toronto, and I can tell you, it's a wonderful experience because you truly meet people from all over the world. And a great way to make international friendship, to connect with Rotary. So I definitely encourage you to consider that as well.
Thank you, Gigi.
Thank you.
We actually, the folks that are going in our club are having dinner together on Friday night. So if you would like to join us, Frank, I think, are you going to district?
Yes.
If you would like to join us, you and Claudia, let me know. We'll try to get your tentative reservations to a nice new restaurant. I've gotten some feedback about this room and how, how intimate we felt when we were in the O. Henry. So next week, we are going to try and meet in this room behind us and just see how that feels until we grow and fill this room. There's things that this was a lovely room, but there are things about this room, but the hardwoods, and it's a big space. So I don't know if you, those of you that were at the O. Henry's know you can turn around and talk to the person behind you and just have a more intimate feel. So we're going to try that next week and see how it goes. And then I would like.
Just a quick comment. We got married 20 years ago. So far, so good. It's fairly
That's good. The other thing I'd like to show of hands, if you guys and girls, that ladies think that we should continue to have Zoom meetings every week. So please raise your hand if you think we should continue the Zoom meeting.
Are there any,
No, we haven't had any on in a couple of weeks. So.
We certainly want to encourage folks to
Yes.
join us in person. It's
Right.
such a good space. I think to have that option is still there.
Okay, thank you for your feedback. Anybody else have anything to say about that?
Oh, I will say, if we're doing it for a year and a half there with Walt, it does take some work. So if there's nobody on it, I mean, maintaining something that nobody does, I would say give it a, tell everybody, hey, if nobody's on it, we're gonna discontinue X date in the future.
Maybe we run it through the end of the year or something, through my year. Three more months, you have to look at me. No, I'm not counting the days, there are only 90. Just kidding. I don't think I have anything else. Anybody else have any comments, announcements, fundraiser?
Yeah, the only thing I would mention is as we're slowly marching towards the fundraiser date, that 37 days, something like that, not counting days. But if you're not going to sell your raffle tickets, please get them into me just for accounting purposes so that we can. Anyway, and thanks, Mark, for sharing the details of the intimacy.
I have a question for the fundraiser. So there was talk about we're sold out. Is that correct?
Well, I think there's, if you have potential sponsors, or if you want to attend, I would strongly encourage you.
You didn't answer his question.
We're not sold out?
It's kind of a low suspicious concept,
So we can expand the space if we get enough people.
Sure, or contract people.
I have a similar concern because I heard if I invite somebody to come and you're overpacked, when are we, what's the fine line there between?
I have not, we're not at that point.
Is that a counter?
No.
No, that's something we should look at.
If all the sponsors show up with all their tickets,
I'm sorry.
I think what the issue is, we've had a lot of sponsorships sold. So if all those tickets, those are used, we would be at capacity.
Right.
So if you're not using your tickets, please let Steve know. because he can sell those tickets. Which typically has happened. I mean, I have,
Just based,
Well,
statistically speaking, the fact that we have sold, that we have X number of tickets out because of sponsorships, you've been there, doesn't mean that all of those folks attend.
but
Any way of getting an idea from those sponsors, what those, that inventory will be for those sponsors?
I think in another week or so, we can clear it. I think this,
Yeah.
Weather is, what else?
Well, I can see it as a sponsor. I'm gonna be out of town, but I'm using that sponsorship to leverage the friends and people like another sponsor. I'm giving him a couple tickets because he wants more tickets. And he's been sponsored for years, so I'm sure they support our club. My question was, when are we getting the sponsor package? Do you have a-
Danielle and I worked on those last night, and we assembled everything, but Pete's gonna shrink wrap or have Fresh Market shrink wrap the platinum package for us when he gets back, and once that's done, I'll just bring it, probably next week. Next meeting.
No rush. We gotta play time.
I don't feel.
Steve's committee and team, they've done a great job.
Yeah.
So it's those of you in this room. Okay, Tom? Oh, I don't have it. Come on up.
Well, speaking of which, I too had a chance to attend our friends gathering yesterday from the downtown club. And, I got to tell you, maybe Gail will tell you about it. They're doing great things. I don't know how they're doing about recruiting speakers, but I think everybody got through it yesterday. But you are in for a treat with this morning's speaker. Some of you may recall having heard Dabney address us before. You know you're in for a treat. She is new to you, and to what she's about to speak of, you know as well. I first came to know Dabney and her wonderful husband, Walker Sanders, when they moved to Greensboro here in the late 1990s. She immediately hit the ground running, helping and diving into great things like Triad Stage and helping to make the Center City Park a reality for downtown Greensboro in her early years here in Greensboro. She and her husband Walker met when they were both students at Sewanee, University of the South, in the late 80s. Many of you also know Dabney's parents, the Halliburtons. Her father, Porter Halliburton, has spoken to this club as well in the past. And but she and Walker have really made Greensboro not only their home, but it really made Greensboro a dynamic and changing place. If you look around at things that have happened in the 23 years they've been here, you can directly tie a lot of that to the great things she has been doing for the community, and her husband Walker, of course, is president of the Community Foundation of Greater Greensboro. In addition to her work, will be speaking of as project manager for the downtown Greenway, with chance that I've had to work with her for more than 15 years. She is very active in other aspects of the community and volunteering her gifts and talents and time, including, again, with Triad Stage, the Eastern Music Festival, the Public Art Advisory Committee for the Piedmont Triad International Airport, and also more recently with Greensboro Bound, a literary festival that some of you are familiar with here that's coming up for the third time in the next month or so. Without further ado, Dabney Sanders, ladies and gentlemen.
Great, thank you so much for that nice introduction. I'm really happy to be here. It has been a number of years since I've given you all an update about the downtown Greenway. I'm really pleased to say that a lot has happened since then. So I'm going to run a little quickly through some of this because I know many of you know some of the history in the background, but for those of you that don't, I do want to make sure I sort of touch on that. So the idea for this downtown Greenway, excuse me. The idea for this downtown Greenway was conceived Back in 2001, the foundations that support Action Greensboro commissioned a master plan for Center City that identified this. The idea was for it to be a loop that did not only define our downtown, but also expanded the perceived footprint of downtown. And you see that loop here. It serves as the central hub of the entire greenways and trails and park system in Greensboro. As you know, Greensboro is really known for its parks. However, there was sort of a lack of connectivity as you approached the Center City, and this downtown greenway sort of satisfied that. There were lots of reasons that Action Greensboro was interested in this project. Their primary reason was economic development. We knew that by building this greenway, we would encourage private development to come in and around the downtown greenway, and that has happened. I'll talk a little bit about that. Also wanted to, of course, provide a nice place for recreation, but importantly, also transportation was a key part of this. We also wanted to tell the community stories, and we do that through a lot of public art that we'll see as we take a walk along the greenway. This is sort of a close-up of that. Today, we have built 3 of the 4 miles, everything except for that orange section along the western side. On the left-hand side of your screen there, that is a former railroad line. I'll talk about that in a minute, the status of that. But we're really excited to have 3/4 of it completed to date. Just a little bit about the funding. This is about a $50 million project. And as I said, the foundations that support Action Greensboro really initiated this project, put in some initial seed money that then leveraged public funding. We knew that unlike Center City Park that was built 100% with private funding, unlike moving the baseball stadium downtown that was built 100% with private funding, this project was too big and complicated to rely on the private sector to do that 100%. It was really important for the city to have some skin in the game on it. So in 2008, a transportation bond was passed that dedicated funding to this, and we formed a true public-private partnership with the city at that point. Subsequently, we had a Parks and Recreation bond that passed in 2016. And then that money was used really to leverage additional private support from foundations, corporations, lots of individuals. Some of you are in the room here, and we appreciate that so much. And in the end, we then were able to leverage money from NCDOT and also federal transportation money, which has come through our metropolitan planning organization. So in total, about $37 million from the public sector and $13 million from the private sector. And I think that's really amazing to think about a community of our size to be willing to commit $13 million for a city structure like this. And it's been really rewarding seeing all of the support and the engagement. We just have completed what we called our final mile campaign. We were raising the last little bit of private funding. And even after we have met our goal for that, we have people, and we continue every week, we're getting funding in from people who just want to be a part of making this a success. I will also say we do have an endowment, which I think is significant, knowing that facilities like this take a little extra care than sort of the typical trail out there. So we seeded that with $1 million. It's grown to a little over 1.5 million that's held at the community foundation. Private investments, I mentioned how important that was to us. We knew from other communities that we would see private investment coming because of the downtown greenway, and we've been tracking that. You can see those numbered circles on this map that show where those investments have happened. They've really happened on all sides, so people are not only investing where the greenway already is, but they're investing in places where they know the greenway will be coming. To date, we have seen over $415 million in private economic development that has come because of the downtown greenway. We're not counting all of the projects that are happening downtown. For instance, I would say I wish I could count Tanger's 90 million in my number, but the Tanger Center really did not come here. It had nothing to do with the downtown greenway, so we don't count projects like that. There are a lot of projects out there, even today, that we're waiting on what those numbers will be, and so I know this $415 million number will grow significantly even in the coming year. And this is just a list of some of those projects. some planned, some completed, and some that are actually under construction now. So just a quick little walk through the Greenway. This is the first section we built called 5 Points. Very beautiful park-like setting in the Warnersville neighborhood. We have commissioned local artists to create bike racks. This one done by Eric Bierbauer using recycled bicycle parts. We commissioned North Carolina artists to do benches that represent each of the neighborhoods that we pass through. We have the artists actually come and meet with the neighborhood associations and the residents to learn about their history and what sort of stories they would like to tell. We've done a lot of adaptive reuse of infrastructure, some really significant, 3 significant pieces. This is one. This is this is the North Carolina Railroad line that runs overhead. It had been where 2 roads came together and pedestrians could walk under. When Freeman Mill Road was built overhead, this was abandoned and had been completely overgrown. And so this is what it looks like today. And it has a really nice interactive component with LED colored lights that as you walk through that area, your motion actually changes the patterning and the color of those lights, as you can see here. This is another one of our neighborhood benches. I'm not going to go into all the history of each of these. I encourage you to walk the Greenway and read the signage, and or come on a golf cart tour with me, or do a walking tour that I do once a month to learn more about that. I just want to give you sort of a sense of it. We do have 4 major works of public art that mark the corners of the downtown Greenway, and each of those has a theme that has been important in Greensboro's development and growth. This is called Gateway of the Open Book by Rhode Island-based artist Brower Hatcher, who worked with local artist Frank Russell and kids from the Warnersville neighborhood to design this piece, whose theme was motion, looking at the intersection of railroads and highways in Greensboro that allowed us to develop into the community we are today, as well as the forward movement of people's minds and the fact that we have 7 colleges and universities here. Another one of our bike racks, Park. We also have, you saw that first slide I showed in the Warnersville neighborhood, very park-like setting. We also have super urban settings like you see there. Here, this is along Smith Street. In this case, the 12-foot wide path, which is our standard, is paved in concrete. We also have these tree wells here. We call these eco gardens, but they are innovative stormwater treatment facilities. The first to be built in the city of Greensboro. Of course, these facilities are very popular in other parts of the country, particularly the Pacific Northwest. But it is an innovative way to, and an environmentally friendly way to treat stormwater. And you'll see these throughout much of the Greenway. This is another one of our cornerstones. This is called The Meeting Place by Cambridge, Massachusetts-based artist Harry's and Hayter Collaborative, a husband and wife team. This is looking at the role that Greensboro played in the Revolutionary War, with a beautiful permaculture garden surrounding it. The rooftop of that structure, we go back, you can see that structure is in the shape of the tents that the men would have been camping in here during the war. The rooftop has letters that General Nathaniel Greene wrote to George Washington when he was in battle here. And those are in General Greene's actual handwriting. And the way that you actually read those as the shadow is cast on the ground, it's really a beautiful effect and a nice piece of that history. Another one of our cornerstones is called Woven Works Park by Randy Walker from Minneapolis. This theme of this is innovation, and it's really looking at the important innovative businesses that have formed Greensboro. Of course, you can't really talk about that without looking at the textile industry here. So lots of inspiration from the historic white oak plant, which the artist was able to visit before it closed when he was building this. Oops. This is Jeanette Broussard from Durham, artist who did this mosaic work for the Fisher Park neighborhood bench, which is at Lo-Fi Park. And then Van Dorn Hennett, some of you may know Patrice Hennett. This is Patrice's cousin who grew up in the old Ashboro neighborhood, but is a nationally recognized artist who lives in Durham now. And he was able to do this piece for the old Ashboro neighborhood. We also have the opportunity to build this really special piece that is along that western side that has not been built yet. This is a work called Care's Course by artist Thomas Sayer, who's from Raleigh. He's known for these very large scale earth castings. This is on a piece of property that's owned by Greensboro College. Greensboro College has been an incredible supporter of ours, providing a permanent easement to us for the very first section we built down in the southwest corner of the Greenway, but also on this piece of land that is next door to their theater campus. This is a piece of land that is prone to flooding, and so it's not buildable for the college. And we just knew that it would be a wonderful sort of side amenity to the Greenway when it passes through. And this is a photo of our opening celebration of that piece. If anybody has not seen this piece in person, I really encourage you to go see it. One of those other pieces of infrastructure, sort of adaptive reuse, is Moro Boulevard, which runs along the east side. Moro Boulevard was a 6-lane divided highway. It was built in the late 60s, early to mid 70s. It was intended to be a vehicular loop around downtown, and this east side was built, and some right of way was purchased along the south and along the north, and then it was never completed. And so many of you, if you've driven on Moro, kind of wondered why you've got this 6-lane divided highway. It doesn't carry a lot of traffic, totally inappropriate for a downtown environment. It has served as a divide between East Greensboro, which is of course a primarily African-American communities on that side of town from downtown. And so we were really thrilled to be able to take out an entire lane of traffic and put the Greenway in on the northbound side. We also did road dieting on the remaining lanes, so made those lanes skinnier, which theoretically makes you travel a little slower. And then have put in a dedicated bike lane on the southbound side. So it's really in terms of people's usage, I would say this has been the most transformative section that we've built to date. And it actually, I need to get a new picture because the cones aren't there anymore, of course, and the landscaping's starting to come in, and it looks really nice. Another one of our neighborhood benches, this is Nico Mornagin from Charlotte did this bench for the Dunleaf neighborhood. Fun and whimsical. In early to mid-April, we're installing this piece under Summit Avenue on Moro Boulevard, and artist Sharon Dow, who's also from Charlotte, will be doing this piece. She, in her community engagement, became really interested in the work of a number of young Black architects that were working in the 1950s and 60s here. And she's taken on these panels old redlining maps of Greensboro and has superimposed the work of these modernist architects. And it really tells an amazing story in addition to just being a really nice complement to this bridge overpass. Radcliffe Bailey is the artist who is doing our final cornerstone, which will be in the southeast corner of the downtown Greenway. The theme of this is freedom, and of course it's looking at the very important role that Greensboro played in the national civil rights movement through our local sit-in movement. And he's designed a piece that you see his rendering here. This is going to be at the intersection of South Moro Boulevard and East Gate City Boulevard. We have we were lucky enough, when I mentioned that 6-lane divided highway, it also had other highway features like on-ramps and clover leaves, and we were able to close those off, and it provided a really nice space here for this cornerstone. So you'll see this piece, landscape paths, but then the piece in the center has a concrete base that is in the shape of the hull of a ship, so sort of referencing Middle Passage. And then the metal piece that goes up about 20 feet, you can interpret that either as a ladder, upward mobility, or you might interpret that as a railroad track, which has been a historic divide between Black and white communities across the South. And then the star up there is a blue neon star that's sort of referencing the North Star. Radcliffe, his work is really known for addressing African-American history and culture. He's particularly interested in the Underground Railroad. He is a rock star artist. We could not believe that he actually applied for this because our budget would not be what I would think he would be willing to work for, but he was inspired by the story and the history of Greensboro. And this is a rendering of how that will look at night. We're hoping he'll get started on that construction this summer and will be complete and open in the fall, certainly by the end of the year. And then the last section we have to build, as I mentioned, is this old former railroad line and Norfolk Southern line along the western side. And it's not just the downtown Greenway. It happens to be our final mile, but it's the southernmost section of what was the Atlantic and Yadkin Railroad. And many of you probably know the Atlantic and Yadkin Greenway that's further up northwest. It's one of Greensboro's most loved and used greenways. And there's a 3-mile gap between Markland Avenue, which is where that greenway starts, and downtown. And so we're building a mile of that with our construction. We've just opened the bids to that. And as you might imagine, we're seeing what everybody else is seeing in terms of pricing. And so I'm not exactly sure when we'll get started on that. We're hoping June would be a notice to proceed date for construction. But we've got to get on a city council meeting for approval and approval from NCDOT in the meantime. The goal would be to have that section completed by the end of 2023. But then you can see that that leaves a gap between the end of the downtown Greenway and where that Atlantic and Yadkin Greenway starts now. The city is working on design plans for that and is also working on funding for that. I do think when that happens, that is going to be a real game changer for Greensboro. I think we will have a lot of bicycle tourism that happens because of that. Of course, that Atlantic and Yadkin Greenway connects up and goes through Country Park and the whole Battleground Parks District, where the Greensboro Science Center is. Ultimately, it connects to the Mountains to Sea Trail, which is an incredibly important trail that goes across the state east-west, and then that Mountains to Sea Trail connects to the East Coast Greenway, which they're building a 3,000-mile greenway from Maine to Florida, and have built about a third of it, but have really good traction for making some significant progress. And especially with the infrastructure bill that just passed, they're hopeful to make good progress on that. So a really, really important connection there. And it'll be nice, again, to have that great connectivity coming into downtown from other parts of the community. So that is it. I know I talked fast and gave you a lot of information, but I'd be happy to answer questions. Yes.
Can you expand a little more on the once it's done or built, the ongoing maintenance and cost?
Yeah.
Who would have, where would be tax dollars, will be city, will be more private?
Yeah, that's a great question. Thank you. So I mentioned that we did, the private sector did fund this $1 million endowment, which has grown to a little over 1.5 million at this point. That endowment is designed to be used for some of that specialty maintenance, maintenance on the public art pieces, in particular, enhanced landscaping, that sort of thing. As sections of the downtown Greenway have been open, the city's Parks and Recreation Department has responsibility for maintaining those. We are working on a transition plan right now, because when the construction is complete of the whole 4 miles, then the downtown Greenway office that is now a part of Action Greensboro will go away. I'll be looking for a job. So we're working on a transition plan. The city, I will say, has really stepped up. This is a project that they are incredibly proud of, and of course have a lot of investments in. They are currently hiring a person that will be their sort of program and communications manager for the downtown Greenway that works for Parks and Recreation. They're also in July hiring 2 new maintenance positions and a supervisor position for that. So I think we'll have really good support from the city on that. We certainly, the public-private partnership has been so valuable and important in making this project happen that I do think there is value in having continued private interest and support of this, even after it totally is taken over by the city. So I would encourage you all to continue to use it and stay invested with it. And I think if everybody does that, then it just gives the city motivation to do a great job in taking it on. We also do a lot of programming. I will say we have a lot of opportunities for volunteer activities. We do a lot of programming with classes. We do a lot of, and all of our programming is free, except for our goat yoga classes. We do charge for goat yoga. If anybody ever done goat yoga here, highly recommended, super fun. Have baby goats like jumping on your back while you're, but most of our programming is free. We do a lot of fitness classes. This spring, we've been doing an environmental series. We usually partner with other organizations and bring folks in to help teach those classes. We've done art classes and spring nature series, bird watching and permaculture gardening and that sort of thing. So there are lots of ways that the community can engage. You can engage on your own just by walking or running or riding your bike, but then you can also participate in some of these group activities.
You mentioned, sorry, real quick, the AMY connection, because I live up in Summerfield and there's always, everybody wants to go downtown, but it's a long way to go.
Yeah.
So that will connect to say, Summerfield, Old Bridge.
Yes.
whatever.
Yes, and eventually you'll be able to be on a Greenway that entire route
That would be
to downtown.
huge.
It'll be huge. Yeah,
Excellent, thank
yeah, it will.
I
Yes,
have 3 questions.
okay.
Will you clarify where that first section of the head to north that you're getting ready to bid? What's that gonna be from where to where?
So, so what we're actually, does this have a, let's see,
Yeah, there's a list. Target on.
so
Yeah.
I'll just point from here.
How
So,
far?
so we're building down here. This is Spring Garden Street, heading up that former railroad line. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Okay. So we're starting Spring Garden Street here. The downtown Greenway portion ends here at Smith Street, but then we're actually building up to Benjamin Parkway here, just because Smith Street was not a great place to end. And so that'll be happening when this construction happens. And then the gap is really from Benjamin Parkway here up to Markland Avenue, which is here.
And so what is the expected completion date for the whole thing?
For that, including that piece.
Everything.
It's a little hard to say because the city doesn't have it designed yet and they don't have the funding for that. I mean, I would hope that in the next 5 to 10 years that would happen, but it's.
So I'll be dead.
That's right.
What are the holdbacks? I mean, to me, this is just like, the loop around Greensboro is wonderful. I mean, kudos to you. But like you said, this is huge.
It's huge. Yeah, I would say, a big holdback honestly was Norfolk Southern Railroad Company. We have been negotiating with them since 2004, and we're not able to broker the deal until 2019. And we worked really, really hard on that. We ended up having to pay a lot of money to make it happen. So Norfolk Southern has been a huge roadblock to that particular section. Now that we have the right to convert that rail line to trail, it's really finding the rest of the money to do it. Yeah. Yes.
Do I remember correctly having ridden in my bike along that? There are current markers on like streets, sidewalks, etc., that define most of what is planned, right? Aren't there? Because I swear that I've ridden from Battleground Park all the way down to like the Gate City area, and I thought I remembered that there were some Greenway indicators.
I haven't seen those, like a future route coming back sort of thing. Is that what you mean?
Something.
Yeah, I'm not sure. We did that on the downtown Greenway. We had some future route signs on sections that we had not built yet, but I haven't noticed that going up that way.
That's a
If
different
you think
animal.
about the intersection,
That's the bike.
Battleground, Lawndale, Cornwallis, it's a crazy, that roadway is ridiculous. And so the city is hoping to try to solve that roadway issue. At the same time, they're working on the Greenway design here for safety reasons, obviously.
So maybe I'm piggybacking on Steve's comment, the section of the Greenway that is yet to be completed, the railroad, can you walk and bike that area now?
Yeah, so I would say you can, it's very easy to walk it. I walk it almost every week. And so the railroad has come through and has pulled up all the steel and most of the ties. The city has kind of bush hogged that so that it's a pretty flat surface. You do have to cross, there's a beautiful little stream that'll be even more beautiful when we get finished with it, called College Branch Stream that runs along that side. So there are 4 bridge crossings, and those are just old railroad ties that are not in the best shape in the whole world. And so like, I probably wouldn't ride my bike over that, but I feel comfortable walking that. And you can always, you know, walk your bike over and keep going. But it's definitely a rough terrain. You know, there's a lot of stones and rocks and that sort of thing, but it is passable there.
Well, I have one other question. So you mentioned a golf cart tour and walking tour. Not that I would partake in this, but is there any kind of like pub crawl or anything that incorporates the Greenway?
Yeah, so we do, that's one of the things that we're seeing popping up. You know, we have a lot of breweries and bars and coffee shops that are popping up along the downtown Greenway. We have not organized any, but there are some other groups in town that do those kind of pub crawls. I will say, I put brochures on the table for everyone, and I have a few extras if there are not enough out there, but this has our website on here. You can go to that website and look at what all of those events are that we offer. The golf cart tours that we offer, probably 6 to 8 each month. It just depends on the schedule. And then the walking tours, we're doing those once a month. And as I said, lots of other classes. One other thing I should mention that we're working on, which I'm excited about, is we Radcliffe Bailey with his Freedom Cornerstone piece early on had said he wanted to incorporate sound into the piece. And so we were helping him investigate ways to do that would not be dependent on, you know, changing technology or speakers that break down or that sort of thing. And so as we started investigating some possibilities for him to incorporate sound in this piece, it made us realize that to have sound really scoring the Greenway, the whole entire Greenway, not just that one piece, would be an advantage. So we have just are getting under contract with a company that is going to do an audio guide for us. And it's a GPS-based system, so you'll have an app on your phone, and then you'll actually be able to hear as you approach a variety of pieces. You'll be able to, in many cases, you'll hear the artist talk about their piece. Other areas, you might just hear sound that's inspired by the surroundings. And so that'll be yet another way that you can really do a self-guided tour without a tour guide like we do on the golf cart and walking tours. That'll be coming, I would say this fall, we'll have that hopefully up and running. Yes.
What's the length? What is the distance on just the downtown loop that we're looking at?
It's 4 miles.
Including the unfinished piece?
Yes, yes. So the loop itself is 4 miles. Anything else? Great. Well, thank you so much.
I wanted you to hear from her before I said this. We are so fortunate to have had Dabney's tireless leadership for almost 20 years, just dedicated to this. It's been going on that long in the planning. It really got a kick-started second when we on the Bicentennial Commission in the mid-2000s, that decade, decided to make this our dedicatory legacy piece. But then there was a then what? Well, Dabney became the then what, and she stepped in and has tirelessly, the skill sets required for the strategic vision, the attention to detail, the ability to bring together community groups, the ability to seek out levels and layers of state and federal and private funds, and the ability to even assemble and get the coordination of different parts of city government to all work together. We are so fortunate to have had her leadership and energy, as you've seen. And let's give her a big hand.
That's wonderful. I love the art. Yeah, we'll take one last.
You're welcome. Have a good one.
You don't need them. Right. Do I read all these numbers?
The last 3. Okay. 6, 5, 6, 4, 8.
I remind you.
5, 6, 4, 8.
Yeah.